I get a call to come downstairs as I'd left something in his car. I get downstairs and ask what it was, and he just put his hands on my face and pulled me in for a kiss. I had basically melted at that point. People ask Reddit. Women of Reddit, what was the smoothest way you were asked out? I was at a party with a friend of mine when this guy comes over with a deck of cards. He insisted on showing my friend his party trick and proceeded to have her choose a card at random. She grabbed the card and kept its identity to herself, and he placed it back in the deck and shuffled it. He started laying down cards and ended when he reached 10. He looked up at her and said, "Do you notice anything interesting about these cards I laid down?" She shook her head, and he then looks her directly in the eyes and says, "It's my number, call me." He then proceeded to give her an over-exaggerated wink, shot her some finger guns, and disappeared into the crowd at the party. At university, my guy friend saw that I was having a bad day in one of our morning classes. He came and sat down next to me and said, "You look like you could use a pick-me-up, how about I pick you up at 7? He escaped the friend zone that night and we ended up dating for a year. In grade 8, a guy friend of mine came to my door with a plastic watering can. He opened with, "John told me that you have to make it memorable when you ask someone out, so I brought you a watering can." Super cute. I definitely will always remember. I said yes. We dated for 2 weeks and then both concluded we are better as friends, but it was still the best way I've ever been asked out. I met a guy when I was like 16 at a convention. We happened to be in the same area and really hit it off talking about art and drawing. We started doodling each other while still chatting away, and exchanged portraits when it came time to part ways. He signed his drawing of me with his phone number. For 2 nerds at an cosplay convention, that was pretty damn smooth. I was bartending. A customer I had a few good conversations with asked me what time my shift ended, and I told him 2 a.m. He leaned back and said, "Can I order a coffee? I'm going to need it if I want to stay up until 2 a.m. Note, I don't want to be harsh, but bartenders are paid to be nice to you. Be 105% sure someone's into you before you pull a move like this. At one of my old labs, there was a job where you work with a partner who has to print numbers on these little plastic cases for you to put samples in. You're doing it for hours, so it gets really boring, but you've also got to concentrate, cause if you mix up the numbers, then 2 patients could get each other's diagnosis and you could kill someone. The advantage of this job is that you can basically talk to the person you're working with for hours, because eventually you start doing the checking subconsciously, sort of like driving and talking to someone at the same time. Anyway, I'd been getting close to this cute new guy for a few weeks, and we'd been hanging out all day just shooting the breeze at work. Right at the end of the day, as he's handing me one of these cases, my subconscious alarm goes off telling me the number on the case is wrong. This happens pretty often, hence why we're so paranoid checking, so I pick it up to hand it back to him and ask him to reprint it, when I realize it's his phone number he's printed on the case. Look up and see him smiling the most confident grin I've ever seen in my life. The little ducker knew he had me then. He literally ran after me. We had a class together and started talking about 2 weeks before it ended. I thought he was cute as hell but didn't think he felt the same way. He and his buddy lived the same way I did, and on the last day of class, they walked home with me but split paths after a few blocks. So I'm walking and kinda gushing to a friend via text about him, and I hear someone running and it's him. He tells me that he'd be a massive idiot unless he gets my phone number because he thinks I'm super cute. We've been together for 3 years. Reply? Uck, that was me, except I made it all the way back to the men's dorm. There was one girl in our group of friends, and we all came back from a night out. We were walking toward the dorms when the other guys started walking all fast. So I'm there walking with her, a woman I had been developing a major crush on over the past couple of months. I should add an unlike, well, I wouldn't just walk all fast and leave her alone. At least not while we're still on the sidewalk that leads to both of the dorms. I knew if I was a gentleman and walked her all the way to her dorm, she'd know. So when the sidewalk split, I said, "Well, good night," and I proceeded to walk, like an idiot, back to the men's dorm, leaving her to walk by herself back to the women's dorm, when she had clearly wanted me walk her back. But she's my wife now, so it wasn't a complete disaster. If you want to support our new channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. We would also love to read some feedback in the comments. Thank you very much. Summer of sophomore year, there was an ice cream store I would go to religiously every other day. They had a huge selection of flavors that rotated frequently, and the guy that worked there could predict what I'd order because it'd always have to be whatever's new. It got to the point where I didn't even have to order. I'd just walk in and he'd have a cone ready for me by the time I reached the register. But we never really talked outside of ice cream orders. Me, yeah, I do. Him, do you also like pizza and a movie? Maybe, Saturday? Me, actually. My friend Naomi and I are going. Friend elbows me hard and conspicuously, not going anywhere. See you Sat. Him, cool. I'll see you here, usual time. Then he gave my friend double scoop on the house. One Saturday morning there was a knock on my door. I opened it and there was a young guy my age with a construction vest in. He stared at me for a couple seconds and I said, "Can I help you?" "Hello. We are doing some work on the pipes on this street." He was basically telling me I couldn't flush the toilet for a couple hours while they did the work. A couple hours later, they were done and gone. I had to run some errands so I went to leave. Stuck in the door was a note asking me out. It was signed "The guy who told you not to flush." Maybe not the smoothest, but one of the cutest ways I have been asked out. Reply? Did you go? Answer? Ugh. No. And I regret it. I was in high school and very shy when it came to dates. I always thought people were making fun of me, or as soon as we went out they would quickly realize I was weird. I had this fear that I was living a real life she's all that, so I never called him. When I was living in Boston there was a really cute guy who would play his guitar and sing in the stations along the Blue Line. I always gave him a few bucks because A, he was really cute, and B, he was really talented. He'd smile and call me the girl with the yellow roses. I have tattoos of yellow roses on my back, and then I'd get on the train and be gone. I was, still am, actually, in a long-term relationship, but I figured it was just harmless flirting. After about a month and a half of this I walked into one of the stations. I could hear someone playing ukulele. And then I heard, "Hey, girl with the yellow roses." So I looked around and saw him, sitting on the bench with a bouquet of yellow roses, and he started playing My Girl by the Temptations, on the uke. When he was done I walked over and he asked me out for coffee. It was so ducking cute, albeit a little embarrassing because, crowded station, and if I had been single I would have said yes. But I didn't. He smiled and said, that figures. Have a great day, pretty girl. I'm a guy, a girl said this to me while I was wearing a suit. Hey, nice suit, it looks like it needs a tailor though. By the way, my name is Taylor. Walking through a crowded train station my eyes met with a man talking into his phone. Not looking away he said, "Sorry, something's come up," snapped the phone shut, "Remember when phones did that?" And walked straight over and said hi. Hands down the smoothest thing ever. Edit, to answer some of your questions. Yes, this really did happen. It was a major London train station around 2002. I was heading home after drinks with friends. I can't remember what exactly he said after that, but we did go straight from there to a bar and snogged a bit at the end of the night. So it totally worked for him. We went out a couple more times after that, but no, I didn't marry him. We met at college. We started hanging out after some friends introduced us, and he told me about D&D. I'd never played, so he said he would teach me the rules. One night after we'd been hanging out for a few weeks we started talking about relationships, as in past relationships. He told me about some ex-girlfriends, just briefly. I dated her for 6 months, then her for 2 years type stuff. Then he asked me about my past relationships. Okay, so my backstory at that point was 0. 0 boyfriends, 0 guys kissed, no one had really seemed interested, and to be honest I was pretty insecure about it. To add to that, I had been on my first date ever about a month before I met him, and the guy bailed when he found out I'd never been kissed. But I wasn't the type to lie, so I told him. His response was a thoughtful and then he leaned forward and kissed me. Then he said, "There, problem solved. We've been together 15 years, married 13 years and have 4 kids, and he's still the only guy I've ever kissed." So, I was in a pre-dental program at my college, and one of the requirements was a class with all the different pre-medical students about applying to our actual dental, medical, veterinarian, etc. schools. There was a guy who sat behind me in that class and we always bickered back and forth. So at the end of the semester we have to get up and give presentations with the other people in our grad programs. Dental went the first day, and this guy was in the miscellaneous group who went the next day. He gets up to start the presentation and hands out the outline for their topics, but he runs out just when he reaches me. I'm annoyed, thinking he's just ducking with me. He goes to his bag and pulls out an extra and hands it to me. So after like 20 minutes I get to the last page of their outline and I see the last line says lunch. And I look over at the person sitting next to me in their paper. Sure enough, it doesn't have that extra line. I looked up at him and he winked. It was hands down the cutest way I have ever been asked out. You shoulda put my number in your phone. My boyfriend of 2 years. There was just something so cute about his momentary confident remark. Plus I stared at him for a good 2 minutes before I agreed while he looked around nervously. I was at a party with this really cute guy that I had been talking to for a bit. I didn't really know anyone there though, so I wanted to go home, and his friend was way too drunk, so he ended up giving us both a ride home. Anyway, he dropped me off first, which I was kind of bummed about because I was planning on making a move once his friend left, but I assumed he did it on purpose and wasn't into me. Not 10 minutes later I get a call to come downstairs as I'd left something in his car and he wanted to give it back to me. I get downstairs and ask what it was, and he just put his hands on my face and pulled me in for a kiss. He asked me out, but I had basically melted at that point and I think I just nuded and grinned like a fool. Definitely the smoothest thing a guy has done. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.